What's up, your boy for another reaction? In today's video, we have explaining the most impactful game in college football playoff history by Isaac Punts. Back with this dad bod, nigga. I gotta drink a beer with you, bro. I know you fuck up a beer. Like, look at this nigga
With
Beal, bro.
March Madness
The mustache, the you can see the titties through the shirt, like the hat.
fully underway, it's got me thinking about another playoff that I personally love, the 12-team college football playoff. And while it is a new and wonderful and wacky thing, and you could talk about a variety of
Bro, I thought Tulane had a chance against Ole Miss, bro. But we was getting down the field in the first quarter, then quarterback threw a pick. It's all about quarterback play. Tulane quarterbacks be trash, bro. Besides Darren Mincer, bro.
subjects with it, like how NIL has completely warped how this playoff is being played, or how teams are now getting all these older players to try to make these big pushes, or how Oregon constantly just gets the crap kicked out of them every time they get into the playoffs. That's
You niggas got Phil Knight backing y'all a billionaire. Y'all get all these recruits because y'all spending all the money and y'all can't win an ad. That shit, that shit. It's because of quarterbacks. Dylan Gabriel was trash. Deontay Moore, he trash. He coming back, but he trash. But it's really quarterback play.
not really controversial. I just really wanted to dookie on Oregon.
Oh, it's finally a smile.
Right,
But
bro.
last year, there was a game that fundamentally altered the college football playoff scene for the foreseeable future. A game that was so destructive with its result that they had to completely rewrite everything they thought they knew about their foolproof college football playoff. And that game didn't even happen in the playoffs, but a random conference championship game hit the college football world like a meteor, with the ripples of that spreading all the way out into the future as far as we're going to be able to see. And that game, of course, is the ACC championship game of Duke taking on Virginia. And not only was this game...
Can we please talk about Darren Mincer, bro? Duke won this game. Bro, that nigga won Duke the ACC. They ain't won the ACC since the 90s, I think, bro. Darren Mincer is the best quarterback coming into college this year. Don't let these niggas hype y'all up with Archman. You already know who they're going to push. Archman. And they're going to say Archman and the best quarterback coming in the next season. No, he not. It's Darren Mincer. I could see Miami being right back in the national championship, bro. Bro, he on Miami. That nigga got Malachi Tony. He got weapons, bro. Like, come on.
devastating, but it was equally as exhilarating to watch. But to truly understand what I'm talking about, how could it have changed college football like that, we're, of course, going to have to go back. Back to a few weeks before the playoff was going to be locked in, so we can get a good view of the playoff picture. At the top were your blue blood schools, you know, Ohio State, Alabama's, Georgia's, Indiana? Yeah, they're like scarily good this year. For anybody who didn't really keep up with the season, it's actually a little bit jarring. Like, can I just go on a tangent real quick? I can't even imagine what it would be like as a Washington State fan to get a new coach and go from middle of the pack to occasionally being on the fringes of being ranked to suddenly a back-to-back national powerhouse. But that's aside the point, because this game wasn't really going to change the order of the people at the top so much, so let's take you to the people who are fighting to get into the postseason in general. So first and foremost, you had Miami. After starting off strong, they would lose 2 games in short order to Louisville and Southern Methodist before seemingly coming back to life and just whopping their next 4 opponents, as they were hanging out at the 12 or 13 spot, hoping to be able to sneak in, as they really only had one impactful win, which was against Notre Dame on a last-minute field goal, who, after losing to Miami week 1, would rattle off 10 wins in a row, including over 2 top 25 schools in USC and Pitt, while putting up some insane performances like blowing out Syracuse 70-7. And while this might typically be enough to get them a playoff spot, they did have one
Notre Dame, bro.
more loss
Notre Dame join the conference, man.
I failed to mention, which is to a very good Texas A&M team who had managed to beat them by a single point before going on what can only be called a cupcake tour of the SEC, never losing a game until they played the Longhorns, who slapped the taste buds out of their mouth. Speaking of Texas, they also felt like they had a claim to the playoffs after beating the number 3 seed of Texas A&M.
Archman, he did improve the midway of the season. He did play better during the midway of the season. He did.
After they went through a gauntlet of a season, playing 5 teams ranked in the top 10 and only losing 2 of those games while putting up the best fight of any team against Ohio State. But we still had the Big 12 to consider, and they had a tight race in their own regards between Texas Tech and BYU, who was, in my opinion, getting a little shafted in the rankings because BYU had only lost to Texas Tech, and the Red Raiders had lost to the Sun Devils of all teams. But those two teams were set up in the Big 12 championship, which was essentially a win and in for one team and a Reese's Puff Bowl invite for the other. But the conference that I haven't mentioned, the conference who turned out to be the real X factor on all of this, was none other than the illustrious, the self-devouring Atlantic Coast Conference, yes, the ACC, because honestly, they've kind of been a mess since Clemson fell off, but this year...
Yeah, Clemson, but Dabo Sweeney need to step down.
...was particularly devastating. To start the season, we thought maybe Florida State would be back to their old early 2010 self as they would mop Alabama, but yeah, that couldn't have been further from the truth as they finished 5-7 and 2-6.
But it was crazy
In conference play. Then we thought maybe Miami would return to form, but they would, as I stated earlier, lose 2 games, which put them in a bad position to look like they were going to be the big dogs this year. After that, we could take a look at the teams they lost to, but Louisville would go on a slide a few weeks later to take themselves out of contention, and SMU was looking like they were going to be primed to take the crown until in the final hour they lost to Cal to knock themselves essentially all the way out of playoff contention and ACC championship contention. The same could be said for Pitt and Georgia Tech, who both started off really hot but flamed out at the end, with Tech completely collapsing to NC State, Pitt, and Georgia, while Pitt would get gobsmacked by Miami. So who would that leave in the ACC championship? Well, first and foremost, the team people thought would be the lone representative of the ACC, which was Virginia. And let's just be clear, I'm sorry, Cavaliers fans, I never thought you guys looked that good. I mean, they only weren't a 6-2 team like the other top dogs in their conference due to a crazy technicality where they scheduled NC State, a team who's in their conference, as a non-conference game. So despite the fact that they lost to a conference player, it didn't hurt their conference standing, which is super weird. So they go 7-1 in the conference after playing a cupcake schedule for the ACC, and all their non-conference games were against the teams like Coastal Carolina and William and Mary, who's an FCS team, and then Washington State, where we only lost because we messed up a fair catch to get a save.
Oh boy, you a Washington State fan? They BJ. Ooh, y'all had Cam Ward. What happened to that wide receiver that went there? What was that nigga name? Kelly, I think. Washington. Uh, 2025. But y'all know who I'm talking about. I know y'all know who I'm talking about. Kyle Williams. Where is he at? Kyle Williams. Yep. I said Kelly. Oh, he played for the Patriots. Yeah, he was a dog at Washington State. 209 yards, 3 touchdowns. Damn, he played a couple of 3 touchdowns.
In a tight ball game in the final 2 minutes. Oh my God, how did we lose that game? It hurts to think about. My brain hates it so much. They also really just didn't look too dominant. They required 3 separate overtimes to eke out a 10-2 record. So who then would they be playing? I already eliminated the other top 4 programs in the ACC, so who would sneak into the championship but the one, the only basketball powerhouse, the Duke Blue Devils? You see, where most teams did their losing at the end of the year, Duke sort of front-loaded it. They lost to Illinois and Tulane. Remember that Tulane part of it because it's pretty important. Then lost again to Georgia Tech and then to UConn, who was out of conference before losing once again to Virginia. So yeah, that's 5 losses already.
And Duke Yeah, Mensa bad
but
too.
only 2 of those were from conference play, one of which being the 3rd strongest team in the conference in Georgia Tech, who totally melted down at the end of the year, and the other being the strongest team in the conference at the time, which was Virginia, with Duke having this neat little happening of beating NC State, who beat Virginia. So yeah, with a bunch of really good tiebreakers, they ended up in the conference championship. That being said, we're not just talking about ACC politics here, all right? Because an 8-5 team competing for their conference championship while being unranked had some really big implications for the college football playoff. Because first and foremost, the way that the college football playoff works is they don't just take the top 12 ranked teams. That would make a little bit too much sense, right? But instead, they have 5 auto bids. You get the top 5 highest ranked conference champions and put them in. And then from there, you take the 7 highest ranked non-conference championship teams. So typically, on an average year up to this point, what you would expect is the winner of each of the Power 4 conferences are typically in the top 10. And on top of that, you usually get 1 auto bid for the group of 5 conference champion who's ranked the highest. I mean, think about last year. It was a really good example of why you should want something similar to this. The only teams that got left out last year was like maybe Alabama or Ole Miss, and they really didn't look strong enough to go all the way, especially against that Ohio State team. And then you get to let in one of the coolest stories in college football that year, which was Boise State on just a historically good run with one.
But we all know them teams was gonna get blown out. Like, homie, but it's a fly flying in this bitch game, bro. This bitch small. So it's like a little net.
One of the best running backs college football had ever seen. So it kind of worked out in our favor. It was not going to do that this year. Because going back to Duke, if they could somehow win their game, that would mean a completely unranked conference championship would be coming out of the Power 4, meaning the committee would have no choice but to give 2 separate group of 5 schools not just an in, but an auto bid. And as those group of 5 schools started to pan out, we saw the top contenders would be coming in at rank 20 in Tulane. That's right, a full 8 places out of a true top 12 seeding. But even more out of place was the 24 seed in James Madison. But this would, of course, require Duke to actually win the game. And the last time they played Virginia, they got absolutely stomped. But the game was played, and every team ranked 9 through 12 was on the edge of their seat, knowing that this game could control their outcome, and it was a nail-biter. Back and forth in regulation in the first half, starting hot before ending in a punt-off. But in the second half, Duke would maintain their 7-point lead all the way to the final 2 minutes, where it looked like their punter, Cade Reynoldson, was going to ice the game as he put it on the 4-yard line. But Virginia does have a bit of a clutch streak going on that they didn't plan on breaking, at least not yet, as they drove 96 yards to score in the absolute last minute. I'm talking about 22 seconds left from the 18-yard line. One of the most perfect pitch and catches you'll see. Look at this. 0 room for separation. Defensive back trying to push this guy out of bounds. Can't quite keep him there, and the quarterback sees no window and says, fuck it, my guy's going to catch it anyway, and he'd be right. Everyone was on the edge of their seat now, as Virginia was going into their 4th overtime on the year, where in just 3 plays, Duke was setting up a first down at the 1-yard line. A score here seemed inevitable, but maybe the Cavaliers could pull off the goal line stand where they stuffed the Blue Devils, forced the quarterback to almost make the best pitch and catch of his life. I mean, look at this, is pretty dang close. Bro. And then they would stuff them again. Oh my God, were they going to do it? It was 4th and 1 at the 1-yard line. A stop here or even a field goal means their odds of winning skyrocket. But the quarterback rolls out, and this time finds the big tight end in a hole in the end zone. Duke scores. Virginia gets a roughing the passer and now has to start at the 40.
That was a good game. I watched it live.
The stakes have never been higher for teams not in this game, as we all watched what Virginia would draw up. It was a pitch. No, it was a reverse. No, it was a double pass into double coverage and picked.
That nigga threw a shrimp po' boy. Like, what the fuck?
Oh my God, the actual worst outcome for certain teams. Now Miami, Texas, Notre Dame, BYU,
Them niggas running a trick play in that situation.
even Alabama and Oklahoma all had to hold their breaths, as they had to hope they could slide in, as the bottom 2 spots for the CFP were now taken by the illustrious James Madison University and Tulane. And trust me, this had everybody all in a tussy, all right? Because the selection selection committee let a 3-loss Alabama team in, and their brothers in the SEC in Oklahoma also got left in, leaving out Texas, who beat the brakes off of Oklahoma earlier the year, and then also letting in Miami, who had the 10th seed. But this meant that in teams like Notre Dame, who only lost to 2 teams all year, the 10th seed and the 7th seed, and won out the rest of the year, got left out, as well as a team like BYU, who was competing for their conference championship and only lost to 1 team the entire year and just happened to do it twice, which was the number.
Texas Tech beat their ass both times, though. Put that belt on them. 29-7, 34-7. Like,
number 4 seed in Texas Tech. And this led people realize a couple of intersecting points that really exasperated all the problems that the current playoffs could have had in one year. First, we got to see how scuffed their auto bid system was because they failed to foresee the fact that maybe one of the Power 4 conference champions wouldn't be in the top 25. This meant that they had to let in 2 teams who respectfully had no business in the playoffs, not because they're G5, but they were, in my opinion, not close to being dominant. Sure, JMU ran the table in the Sun Belt competition, but they played one Power 4 team and got smacked and just barely beat Washington State. Fuck, why are we catching so many strays in this video? Oh my gosh. But even
you're a Washington State fan, 5.
that required a couple completely blown up and broken plays for them to even look good in. And Tulane's own coach said that he didn't think they looked like a playoff team as they had 2 losses.
Damn, you gonna say that, 5? You the coach? Nigga, you supposed to pick confidence, say, nigga, we is a playoff team. Nigga, the hell? What type of coach you is, boy? You supposed to say we should win the Natty. You know?
Which, in embarrassing fashion,
I only went for Tulane because, I'm from Louisiana. That's one of my Louisiana schools. I rep Tulane, LSU, you know what I'm saying?
To who their first round opponent was going to be in Ole Miss, and another similarly embarrassing fashion to UTSA. And don't get me wrong, I am happy they got to play. I thought it would have been hilarious if they gave the teams that they were playing hell. Heck, I really wanted them to win one of those games and really rock the boat. But if you asked teams before this who they thought the 12 best teams were, I don't think anybody was really going to try to tell you it was Tulane or JMU. And yet, we had to watch them play for a chance to win the national championship, despite, in my opinion, there not really even being a case for them to be that good. But it's not their fault. I wanted them to play. It's just that it really did feel bad to have these 2 teams in, where a team that maybe could have made a late push, like Notre Dame, didn't have an opportunity to. On the flip side, the other thing that was exposed was the playoff committee's ungodly SEC bias. I mean, don't get me wrong. Notre Dame has every right to feel shafted as they were objectively ranked as the 11th seed and were still left out, where under normal circumstances they would have been in. But the SEC got 5 teams deep into the playoffs, while the Big Ten, notably the winner of the last 2 national championships, would only get 3. And the Big 12, once again, only got a single team in, and the ACC, well, we don't need to talk about them much anymore. Not to mention making 2 SEC teams play each other in the first and second round, ensuring a team was going to get all the way to the quarterfinals just for Alabama to get launched into the fucking sun by Indiana, and then have the total record for all the SEC teams be 0-3 against non-SEC Power 4 schools. But ultimately, Duke's win rocked the boat enough that this was all brought to a very painful light, where the playoff committee would have no choice but to make some changes. First, they're going to be keeping the 5 auto bids, but it's going to be divvied up a little differently. This means that they are going to be giving 4 conference championships all auto bids of the Power 4 schools. This would have looked like Duke making it in while JMU gets cut for it. Now, I don't like this because Duke also wasn't very good this year, and I don't think we should just be letting them in either. They weren't even ranked. Why are they in the playoffs? That's aside the point. I don't think this fixes everything, but it does change the structure a little bit, and it's just kind of a slap in the face to all of the group of 5 schools, because now it's a lot harder to get in, because only one group of 5 school is even possible to get an auto bid, and that's the highest ranked one. Next, teams like Notre Dame, who are in the top 12 at the time when the cut happens are the next people to be guaranteed to get in. So Notre Dame effectively gets an auto bid if they end the season in the top 12. Once again, a little bit of a slap in the face because theoretically there's a world where the group of 5 schools have a 10 and an 11 seed and they don't get the same luxury as Notre Dame does. But to think that all of this fallout, everything that has happened, came from just a little scrappy team in North Carolina going up to a big dog's house and punching them in the mouth to cause all of this is just why I love college football so much, and I hope you love it the same too. So I hope you're having an awesome March Madness, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.
Be sure to comment, subscribe, and about deuces.
Is clavicular
Amazing video. Isaac Punts. We gotta drink a beer together one day 5.